Hi all, I'd like to look at the second World Championship match now, but from an evolution of style perspective, we're going to look at Chigorin and what he brought to the game. He was actually the adopted father of the Soviet school of chess. So why would they adopt him as such, and what sort of creative ideas did he bring to the table to challenge Steinitz? Well, I want to introduce a concept now which I've already kind of mentioned in previous videos about the difference between strategy and tactics. I want to draw your attention to this slide again. And Steinitz's contributions in the strategic area, things like, better pawn structure, but also things like the two bishops, the bishop pair, was seen as an advantage. Game after game, Steinitz was proving that. And you'll notice I put in two buts here. I said about embedded system dynamism, exploitable weakness aspects. So even if you have the two bishops, they might not be that favourable in the current position. And it's the individuality of the position which I believe was the big contribution of Chigorin and the underestimated contribution. And this is a long time before the hypermodern revolution, where a lot of ideas were challenged in terms of the contextual factors, the individuality of the positions. Like the Nimzo-Indian defence, is giving up a bishop voluntarily, but you get a lot of strong compensation, like control of e4. So it's the context of things which are important here. And the same with dynamics. You look at the positional side of things, even in a combination, to check positioning after the combination. So if you can relate this, now I'm going to do an analogy here with the Teo symbol, and I'll show you why. In the Teo symbol, there's like two opposites, and embracing the opposites, but also understanding the interdependencies. So not only in chess terms, this is like strategy, and this is like tactics, but the interdependency, we've got a black dot in the white bit, and vice versa. And this is like the exploitableness in terms of if you have the two bishops here as part of your strategy. But within that, you need to again assess the individual characteristics of the position of the two bishops to see if they're effective. So it's almost as if the Teo symbol has a useful application to chess. And I want to show you some concrete examples from the second World Championship match now, of, in particular, the two bishops being challenged by Chigorin to put that concept in context. So almost as if a black dot within the white circle. But here, Steinitz was white. And we'll see how the game progressed. So bishop g4. So Chigorin had obviously not been listening or looking at Steinitz's annotated games, or wanted to use this match not just to beat Steinitz, but challenge his theories, to contextualize them, to show that the merits of the particular positions can some outweigh the generalizations which Steinitz was trying to make. So Steinitz was like the scientist, and Chigorin was like the imaginative, creative person, not wanting to be confined by generalizations. So he plays bishop g4. And after c4, he takes on f3, so giving Steinitz his favourite two bishops. But now after e6, Steinitz took on d5, so he's starting to open up the position. And black was almost breaking yet another principle, that of development. He's moving his queen early out in the opening. He's moving his bishop to b4, where it can be challenged later with a3 potentially, to even ask, is it going to give itself up as well, just to leave the two knights. So this is an outrage, theoretically, against Steinitz. So queen a5, bishop d2. And now Chigorin plays knight c6. And here some tactical precision is needed, because it's not obvious actually that white can play a3. I don't want to get into the labyrinth of variations with you too much, but a3, briefly, black has knight takes d4. Because now if a takes, there's queen takes a1, queen takes knight c2, and black will end up being better if white's not careful. There's also other variations. Even if white doesn't play the move a3, but and they involve, in fact, the queen coming to h5 in some lines. Anyway, it's against this and other things that actually Steinitz plays what is, I think, the very best move in the position to gain advantage. d5. He's blocking the queen coming to h5. So any of this knight d4 stuff is not going to be supported tactically now with queen h5 on f3 with the white king still in the centre. So the little, dynamic details of the position, the king in the centre, the slight, the potential for black to castle queenside, etc. Steinitz has got to rule out all the dynamics, otherwise he's going to be destroyed tactically. So with e takes d5, actually he's navigating his way through this very well. So he attempts the bishop exchange, but it would be a disaster if bishop takes c3, because then bishop takes c3 and then g7. So that's another point of d5. Not just opening up this diagonal, and also stopping the queen coming to h5 in some lines, but setting up this kind of tactical disaster where a3 is more effective. So anyway, Chigorin does play knight d4 here, offering ab queen takes a1 as we've seen before. But now Steinitz simply plays bishop d3, so with the real threat now of a takes b4, because he's extinguished the knight c2 check. And here, Chigorin castles queenside. So he's trying to prove, look, even without my light square bishop, I'm going to smash you because your king, in this particular position, is in the centre. You've also got double pawns. I've also got, strong d-file pressure, and you haven't got a rook to challenge this. I'm saying that the individual characteristics of this position refutes your notion about collecting the bishop pair. And so it's this and other principles which maybe Chigorin, he's not just trying to beat Steinitz, he's trying to beat his theories up. He's trying to put them all in context, the dynamic context. But here, Steinitz goes into the complications now. He plays a takes b4, not fearing this combination with knight takes f3, which seemingly deflecting the queen away from the rook. Steinitz allows that, because after king e2, well, the rook is protected by the queen, so there's no queen h1. Queen takes b2, and Steinitz has offered his own positional sacrifice. Now that rook on a1, and he's got a very powerful position now. After rook b1, queen a3, the queen is actually getting harassed. So Steinitz has played around with the dynamics of the details of the position, in particular the queen placement, to have a go now at Chigorin. So queen a6, queen takes f7. And it's very difficult for black here with the king on c8. Queen b6, and now rook c1, targeting c7, knight h6. And Steinitz plays queen takes g7. So all this with his king in the centre. So he is in a sort of very dynamic position where his two bishops are not being traditionally used like he has routinely in other games where he's slaughtered opponents. He's having to calculate his way out of this. But he's got a nice target on c8. So this is why it seems as though Chigorin was made to look like a real patzer in this game. But it's the ideas behind it, in particular the contextualization of the Steinitz principles, the generalizations, which is kind of being questioned by Chigorin. Although unsuccessfully in this game, he resigned here. He smashed to bits. But in the next video, we're going to look at another game with Chigorin as black, where his system worked out a little better. But I want to relate this back to the two slides again, just to reinforce the concept that we have strategy, and Steinitz was like the first strategist, building up all the elements which were generalizations, like the two bishops, good posts for the knight, etc. They're all generalizations. They need the embedded cynicism, the dynamism, and the same, with dynamic thinking. It needs the contextual positional emphasis. And so that's why I'm introducing this Teo symbol. I think it's an elegant way to show this interrelationship between strategy and tactics. But a deeper relationship exists. Even within strategic thinking, if you think about the two bishops or weak squares, they're all in a dynamic context again. and vice versa. When you play a combination, it's all in a strategic context. So I hope this idea doesn't sound too outrageous, that the actual evolution of chess style is like, a set of continual challenges, not just in terms of the concrete games. The theoretical ideas were being put to the test by the later players. Okay, let's look at this game quickly in overview then. The bishop pair was voluntarily given up straight away by Chigorin. So it's dramatic in terms of ideas. And so he has in mind a fast casting queenside with the king being kept in the centre. And there were also some amazing tactical ideas with knight d4 and queen takes a1 introduced in this position, which Steinitz magically seemed to navigate